All right, all right. Hello, all you sports fans out there in podcast land, and welcome once again to another edition of Babbling Brooks, your new favorite podcast, where I, your host Brooks, try to bring you some of today's sports news with just a little twist and my point of view. Hope you're all having a wonderful week so far. Happy Hump Day! It's my weekend in the middle of the week. I'm off today and tomorrow. Ready for 2 days off in a row. Not gonna lie. Getting used to these 5 days on in a row. But it's worth it for the 2 days off. And I get every night off. So I can technically go do things at night. This week I didn't. I was kind of lazy for my second full week at the new gig. And part of that reason is because I've got a cool week coming up. Starting Friday, gonna go see an awesome concert at 529 in East Atlanta Village. The Difference Machine having an album release party for their album release show for their most recent album. Let me look up, make sure I get the name of the album totally right. Alien Nation and the Black Adolescent is the name of the album, and it's an awesome album. I listened to it earlier today I hadn't listened to it in a couple weeks because I had listened to a bunch when it first came out. But songs I would recommend, I'm trying to remember. Old Men, really the whole thing. His Country, Badass Track, Old Men, and Realign, I guess, if I had to pick like three highlights. But the whole damn album is worth it. Their whole catalog so far that I've heard, it was last year, I believe, when they released an album. And I wanted to go to the album release party because one of my friends told me about them. And I was like, I listened to them. I was like, how have I never heard of this group? They're underground, but they're Atlanta. It's I think one person I heard describe them as psychedelic hip hop. And it seems to make sense. And so I've never got to see them live. Last time I wasn't able to get off from work because I was still working nights. But this one I was like, man, next show I'm going to go see. And I saw Friday, September 1st, I'll be there. And I'd already bought my tickets. And then I got even more excited about it because my friend and my favorite DJ probably, or definitely, I want to disparage other DJs that I know because they're awesome too. DJ Tactics, also very, very good DJ. I hadn't got to see him DJ in a while. I need to link up and see what his days are, but he's definitely always trying to do something different. Not the same old. And this Kerosene's the one that got me back excited about hip-hop again. And him and Fort Knox, the tag team champions, will be hosting the event at 529. So looking forward to that because they always bring it. Kerosene, on the tables is terrific. And then some. And then you got Fort Knox who brings the energy and makes sure you bring it too. So if you're coming to the show, stretch something, stretch some vocal cords, because Fort Knox is going to want you to make some noise. And I'm looking forward to it. Should be a cool show. I noticed one of the opening artists is named Gretzky Da Sumo. I've never heard of him before, but I feel like I need to ask him a question. Because there's a song, one of his most recent singles is From Atlanta to Bristol. But I want to be which Bristol are you talking about, dude? I need to know. Surely, I've never had that I know of my hometown Bristol shouted out in a rap song, but didn't really say much about Bristol particularly, so it's not like it's talking a lot about Bristol. It's just been a route. But, it's either that Bristol or the one in England, because there are a lot of hip-hop shows I've noticed. Immortal Technique was on the bill for one, and I've seen others advertised there. So, maybe Bristol, England. The most famous American Bristol is, of course, Connecticut, because it's the home of Sports Center. But, hey, my Bristol, the Virginia-Tennessee one, because they're two, the two are one. It's a state line separates them, but they touch. They're right there. Physically, separated government-wise, but I still consider, Bristol, all of Bristol kind of the same thing. And I didn't even grow up in the city limits, really, so I'm county. So I still count that Washington County. It's all Bristol / Tri-Cities, whatever. But, I don't know. Bristol's the birthplace of country music. It'd be cool to see it shouted out in hip-hop. And there was this one like the first the first rapper I knew. And honestly, I can't remember his name. Not his real name or his rap name. So when I was in high school, there was a kid that transferred over from the city schools. I can't remember his name. White kid with glasses, which also describes me. He's a little suaver than me, though, I believe. But I cannot remember his name. Maybe I'll have to try to find a yearbook and figure it out. I feel like I should know, but I remember he made a little CD. But I'm assuming he didn't really go anywhere with it. I mean, not like major. I would recognize him like if I saw him, on TV. But, so that was the closest thing we had at the time. And then Petey Pablo, when I was growing up, he was from North Carolina. But if you listen, he's shouting out parts of Virginia, going up right there on the border at least. And the part of Virginia I'm in was just as much North Carolina or Tennessee as it was Virginia. Because I don't know if you know this, but Virginia is like a different state. When you're going south, on 81 and after Roanoke, it's different. Because every time I say I'm from Virginia, that's why I always feel like I always say Virginia, Tennessee. Because I'm right on the border. I never lived in Tennessee. I've never lived in North Carolina. Just Virginia and Georgia. But when you say Virginia, people think, oh, D.C. or, oh, Richmond or, oh, Norfolk. And those are different states. That's different. I've been, to all those places at various points in my life. Actually, I remember in college driving across, halfway across the state from Lynchburg. Me and my roommate, main guy, and our friend Michelle. I don't know how hopefully Michelle's doing all right. Well, she was like our we'll see some punk shows. I remember we went, or pop punk, not punk. But we went and saw Sum 41, Unwritten Law, and Hawthorne Heights. It was a cool show. There's somewhere in North. I can't remember the name of it. I remember we almost thought about staying for the next night. It was like Real Big Fish had a show, but we're not able to do that. Similar thing happened to me like at Virginia Beach, which is another place people think of when you say Virginia, obviously. My first road trip, I'd been driving for a couple years, or a few years, 3 or so years at least, because it was when I was going from community college after 2 years to moving up over to Lynchburg to go live on campus at Liberty for my final 2 years. Saved me a lot of money. Maybe not great for me socially because I was, a junior and senior living on campus with like freshman roommates and looking like a freshman even though I was not. But, regardless, that's a whole other episode. But now I'm forgetting where I'm going with that. Oh, yeah. Me and my buddy went up Warped Tour. And we decided, his parents hadn't let him go ride in a car long distance with me. But then they're like, oh, special occasion. They trusted me. So we went all the way up to Hershey, Pennsylvania for Warped Tour. We're just trying to make it a cool trip. Trying to get as far as we could, I guess. So I went up to Hershey, Pennsylvania for Warped Tour. Actually, that was the first time I got to see Bowling for Soup live. Saw them again last year. And I'll get to see them again in less than a week. Tuesday night, they will be playing with Mest and Authority Zero at the Masquerade. Right there in downtown, underground Atlanta. So looking forward to that. It's also the same venue Conway the Machine will be performing at later in the month of September. So I need to get tickets for that. I don't like spending a lot of money all at once. So I kind of stagger my ticket buying. But excited about having nights off. So that means I go to shows. Just going to have to set some alarms. And, miss some of these games too. Some of these Braves games because I have to wake up so early sometimes. Like the first game in this series. Because, hey, you're probably here to listen to me talk about the Braves, not babble on for 10 minutes about, random stuff. But, hey, if you're going to listen to a show called Babbling Brooks, you should expect the occasional babble. You don't know when I'll hit it. Maybe in the opener, probably somewhere in the middle, maybe at the end. But you're going to get a babble. And usually, I like to think, there's some beautiful babbles hidden in there. Maybe not all, but hey, is everything you say brilliant? No, so shut the fuck up. Not really. That sounded a bit too aggressive. I'll chill out. But hey, I should be happy. The Braves won their first 2 games in Colorado. They have been hot lately. Like they've, won. I can't remember the exact record. 13 of the last 15. Didn't write it down, but I believe that's what I read. I know it's something similar because they, haven't been losing a lot. Like, they won the first 2 games of the last series to open up the road trip. Lost the last one, of course. But still, this is what, won 4 of the first 5 games on this road trip? That's not a bad start. And we need to get some momentum going because we got one more game tonight against Colorado in the friendly confines of Coors Field. And then we go to L.A. to take on the Dodgers, our nemesis. Like, they coming for us. They want that home field advantage that was a big part of us winning that World Series in 2021. Dodgers are coming for it. But we keep winning too. And if we weren't still winning, even the Phillies might be catching up. They've been on a tear lately. But I think our division lead's pretty safe. I think so. Especially the way these boys be playing. I know it's in Colorado, but you still love to see the guys putting up some runs. Braves took game 1 14-4. I actually started to try to watch the game. I made it like 2 innings because I was working at 8 o'clock the next morning. And I started to get tired. I was waking up early. Sometimes by the time I'm watching a game at like 8, 9 o'clock, after being on my feet for, 8 hours during the day, it's not always easy to stay awake. So I'm like, I'm just going to go to sleep. So I did. So I missed pretty much all the fun. I got to see Colorado score, and then the Braves, get a couple runs. But, it was disappointing in some ways, though. It was cool, though. 14-4 ended up being the final. And Ronald Acuna Jr. had himself a game. Controls my page, moved itself. Too. I was like, wait, this is not what I was going to be talking about. There we go. My notebook, when I threw it down earlier, skipped back like 3 pages. I'm like, this is not the game I was talking about. But it looked like at first, might be a battle, kind of a back and forth in this game as the Braves, normally known for scoring in that first inning, scored more runs in the first inning than any other team in Major League Baseball has scored in any other inning this season. But quiet first inning this time for the Braves. The Rockies, though, Mr. McMahon, not Vince, hits a 473-foot home run out the park. 1-0, just like that. Makes you go, oh no, here we go. But in the 3rd inning, Braves coming through. Austin Riley knocking it out the park. And just the amount of home runs these guys are hitting is crazy. It's 31st homer of the year. Getting the first lead for the Braves, 2-1. It would have been 3. It was like Michael Harris second got a little aggressive. Got thrown out. Was that this one? The game. That's what sometimes these games. Yeah. I was going to say, sometimes these games blur together for me. That's what I don't like about doing multiple games. I'm like, wait, that was this game, right? That was. I had to double check on the play-by-play on ESPN real quick. But Harris got a little aggressive on the Ozzy Albies pop-out in the 3rd inning. So good to see Ozzy, even though he didn't get a hit, he was actually the only Braves batter to not get a hit in this game. But he, came close, man. He hit it hard that first time he came up to bat. But it was just right at the second baseman. He made a nice little grab. And Ozzy hit one kind of deep, maybe not deep enough. But Michael Harris the second, maybe feeling himself a bit too much. And, you got to appreciate the aggressiveness when it works. But it was one of those times where it was like, come on, Mikey, what you thinking? That's not going to work out. But, hey, still works out. We won 14-4, so what can you really complain about? And, like I said, you do appreciate the aggressiveness when it comes down to it. But it's like you appreciate it more when it works. But you don't get the times it works. It's not going to work every time. So that's going to happen. I think maybe he thought they were going to throw it in a little bit slower. And it was just frustrating because the next play when Austin hits it out the park, you're like, damn, Michael, you could have just chilled and made it home easy. Could have just casually jogged home. And we would have, but it didn't end up mattering. When you win by 10 runs, that 1 run doesn't matter. But it could have. So at the time, especially for me who went to bed before all this other stuff, woke up, not sure what had happened. I looked at my notification. I'm like, cool, we won. 14-4. That sounds like Coors. I told y'all the players were going to have a banquet at Coors Field. And boy, did they ever. Talking about Ronald Acuna Jr. in the opening game of this series. 4 of 5. And he also walked once, so he got on base 5 of the 6 times he went to the plate. 0 strikeouts. 5 RBIs, scored 4 times. Not just that, also got 2 more stolen bases, one on which the confusing play where for some reason they threw it to first and he was already on his way to second. He's like, I'll take it. That gives him 61 stolen bases of the season. And what? I think I mentioned he was due for a home run, right? Well, in the 5th inning, after the Braves gave up another run in the 4th, tying the game at 2, Ronald Acuna Jr. comes up with Michael Harris, the second on base, knocks off 438-foot home run. That is 29 on the season for Ronald Acuna Jr. People saying his MVP-ness is in question. He's still the MVP in my eyes. I mean, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Matt Olson are all having incredible seasons. Especially Matt Olson. But Ronald Acuna has been doing this at pretty much all season. Like, he's not had a bad month this year. And I think that needs to be taken into account. This isn't some surge. Like, he's been doing this since the season opened. Since game 1 of 162, he has been putting the league on notice. After last year, dealing with all those injuries, you could tell he wasn't quite himself, even when he got healed up. I said that with quotation marks. I know I'm not on video, so I need to say that. But it was still like he was playing. And I was telling people this last year. He's playing with a new leg. He's getting used to using that new leg pretty much when it heals up from such a significant injury. Like, you got to get used to it and figure out, like, what are the limits? And, it's a combination of that injury, which of course caused him to not be on the team. He was with the team when we won the World Series 2021, but that's not the same of like being a major part, which I've argued all along. We would not have been in the position to make the comeback that we made that season if it wasn't for what Ronald Acuna Jr. was doing early on before his injury, before his season ended prematurely. Like, the little things and all the stuff he was doing before that injury was like what had us in a position to make that comeback. Otherwise, we might have been too far gone, the season too far lost. So I think that needs to be mentioned, that even though he wasn't like on the team at the end of the season due to that injury, he was a big part of that World Series championship. But I'm sure, he doesn't want to just win that MVP, because that's been a part, I think, of what he's been doing. I think people last year, he just wanted to show last year was an aberration. Because people were starting like, well, Ronald Acuna Jr. has lost it. And he's like, lost what, motherfucker? Watch this. And like, since the beginning of this season, he's just been constantly, consistently doing his thing, man. And he almost made history. Even last night, he almost hit one out in the much more low-scoring affair game 2. But 2 stolen bases and a home run. He's 1 homer away from being the first player in Major League Baseball history to have a 30-60 season. He had Eric Davis, who I remember, he was a lot of fun to watch back in the day. He had a 27-80 season. That's like the closest thing. But Acuna probably not going to get 80 stolen bases. It'll be tough to get 20 more. But, 70, that Braves record, was it 74 by Otis? Either 72 or 74. I don't feel like looking it up. But I know it's in that range. So that's not totally out of reach for Ronald Acuna Jr. But he's definitely got 60. And I feel pretty confident he's going to get another home run or 3, maybe 5. Shit, he could get 10 more. It's just crazy to see. I feel like tonight might be the night Ronald Acuna Jr. gets home run number 30. I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again. But like Michael Harris II, I gotta put caution to the wind occasionally and make a prediction. And also, another thing you talk about Ronald Acuna Jr. in this game. Oh, let's not forget, not only did he have the 2 stolen bases and the 2-run homer, he also had an RBI double in that big 9th inning that just put it all the way away. Because like I mentioned before, it looked like it was going to be kind of like a back and forth battle. But the Braves just broke it open, starting in the 7th inning. And then finishing them off in the top of the 9th. Like, yeah, score 10 runs in the bottom of the 9th, Colorado. Go for it. Not going to happen. But we did. I talk Ronald Acuna Jr. in the 7th. I don't know what was going on. My theory is these dudes, mixing some really, really strong weed, and then they go to the park, start drinking booze. And I know that's what got me my second DUI, y'all. Smoking some spliffs after I've been drinking some high gravity alcohol at the Mellow Mushroom in Bristol. Don't get a DUI after you go. If your friends or your neighbors offer you a ride home, take it. Especially when they're crazier than you are. And if they know you shouldn't be driving, you shouldn't be driving. Thanks to that, I got my little 20 days in jail after the initial overnight. Which neither one of those is fun. I know 20 days is not a long time to go to jail. But I'll tell y'all one damn thing. It's the hell long enough for me. I don't want to go back. I hate not having freedom. It sucks. That's why everybody in jail for minor, non-violent marijuana offenses should be released. Fun fact, I did not get a marijuana charge, despite having a nice little, I had probably an eighth, part of an eighth, what was left of an eighth, like in my backpack between the seats. But I don't want to get into specificity in case somebody listens, but there was one of the officers, maybe I had a slight connection to from my high school days when he was a resource officer. And I don't know if he just accidentally didn't, but they didn't look at my truck. I remember the next day after Mom bailed me out and took me to the get my car from the impound, my truck from the impound lot, or get my stuff out of it at least. I looked around real quick and I was like, hell yeah. Weed is still here. Didn't catch a charge for that. Don't know how much extra that would have gave me, but I'm glad I didn't have to find out because, like I said, 20 days, a mandatory minimum for your second DUI within 5 years in Virginia was enough for me. Shit, what the hell was I was talking about? Oh, yeah. The two fans that came on the field, the one at first, like he's just trying to get a selfie with Ronald, like kind of clasped himself to Ronald. Like Ronald at first was like, hey, like he kind of maintained his composure, said he was a little scared at first. But I think he realized they didn't really mean harm. But just because they don't mean harm can't be happening. And it almost did, because after the first fan, like the two security people are trying to peel him off Acuna, and he just like clings like super tight to Acuna. And then out of nowhere, a third guy comes in and knocks Acuna down. And that dude was like really freaking out. When they were like, pulled him away, he was like flailing violently. I'm like, dude, what did you expect to happen? And I need to look into this if it happens more often in Colorado, because the way the Colorado manager responded to it, like the post-game interview, sounds like it happens there more than other places, which leads me to believe people getting too high. They don't know how to handle their marijuana. I do. And then maybe that elevation, so it's not just the high, but being high up. But also, like, I've known the damage of what mixing weed and alcohol, especially in high amounts, can do. And people in Colorado be smoking, especially maybe these people, I don't know if these were locals or visitors. But, that's, other places are legal now. That's the legalist place for marijuana, I would say. One of the early spots. So it's always kind of, got a lot of dispensaries. There's somebody, hitting up a few dispensaries. They're like, hey, let's have a few beers at the game. Maybe a couple shots. Them shots will do you in sometimes. Because they dudes were like freaking out. So they were on, either, maybe, that's why I was like, maybe not just smoking, maybe it was just some really good edibles. Because edibles, now I've got such a high tolerance for weed that edibles, unless they're like monster edibles, are just like a slight, it's a regular high for me. I remember my first few times doing edibles, when I would just it would zonk me out. Like one time it was like my missionary neighbor when I was living at Mom's before I moved here. And I was like, had some edibles and trying to pressure wash the sidewalk and shit kicked in. And he comes over and I'm like, oh no, this guy's going to talk to me. I cannot talk right now. And he comes over and goes, Chris, Jesus is the answer. And I'm like, all right, thanks. I got to go inside. And then just lay down. Now I eat the same amount of edibles. I'm like, what? Is there anything in this? Is it kicking in? Whatever. But then, it's still fresh-ish. Regardless, though, that's my thinking that these guys ate some way too strong edibles outside of their tolerance level, and then they drank, and that's what happened. But hey, let's move on from that because Acuna's okay. He laughed about it. Everything's okay in the end. All's well that ends well, but still can't blame the Major League Baseball Players Association for saying, "Hey, let's talk about this. Like, how was this able to happen?" And why was security so shitty? Why can't they get these kids off of these people? But yeah, other than Acuna, though, and other than all that, some other guys doing some fun stuff. I already mentioned Austin Riley hitting home run number 31 of the season for the Braves, giving them that first lead. Then lost the lead, but then Acuna took it back with his home run. Sean Murphy, who's been kind of quiet lately, really the catchers in general have not been hitting the ball great. Travis did have a couple the other day. So good to see Sean Murphy, 3 for 5. All 3 of those hits were doubles, too, so making them count. And only his second multi-hit game in the month of August. Like I said, kind of a quiet month for him. Good to see him get it going again, getting some RBIs. Some of the other scoring before we talk about Bryce Elder and the pitching in this game. Excuse me. Like I mentioned, it looked like it was going to be back and forth. Acuna took the lead 4-2 with a home run in the 5th. And then the Rockies answered right back. Couple singles, sacrifice fly. Next thing you know, the score's tied at 4 again. But from that point on, it was all Braves, scoring 10 unanswered runs the rest of the way. Kevin Pillar had a sacrifice fly, RBI in the 6th to get the Braves the lead. And from there, they would not look back. So a little quiet 6th inning, and then in the 7th, just kind of opening it up a little bit. Started with an RBI single by Riley. That knocked in Acuna. Then Ozuna, who in this game was also 2 of 5 with a run and an RBI. Knocking in Riley with his single, moving Olsen over. And then Sean Murphy, one of his 3 doubles, sends home Olsen. Almost Ozuna, he's thrown out at home. So the Braves could have even had more runs in this one. And they still weren't done, though. Orlando Arcia, he sends home Sean Murphy. And it was funny because, Sean Murphy, man, he was moving. Sort of like Travis d'Arnaud in that game against the Giants, where I'm like, man, normally, these catchers aren't our fastest guys, but they're putting some wheels on. And so the Braves left the 7th inning with a 9-4 lead. A lot of places that would be enough. But they know they're playing in Coors Field, so a little extra insurance wouldn't hurt. So they came up in the 9th and just kept it going. Pillar is an infield single that scores Marcell Ozuna. A couple batters later, Ronald Acuna Jr. comes up with the bases loaded. Everybody still want to see home. I mean, how great would that have been? A 2-homer, 2 stolen base game to get to become the first player with 30 homers and 60 stolen bases in a season, and to have done it with a grand slam. Sadly, it was not to be, but still, the next best thing. He clears the bases. It's a 3 RBI double. And then he makes it home on an error. It looked like an easy pop fly, pop out. 3 guys converging in the outfield, and they somehow muffed it. So Acuna's like, sure, I'll take the run. And that was 14-4, and that would be enough because Rockies weren't doing nothing in this one. Great to see Bryce Elder, who's had some struggles. It wasn't perfect in this one, but thankfully, he didn't need to be. When your team puts up runs, like the way the Braves are doing, helps your chances. He pitched 6 innings, gave up 8 hits and 4 runs, which isn't bad. Not a great, normal stat line, but we talk about the first game you've ever pitched in Mile-High Coors Field. It's pretty good. Especially the main statistic, you got to win, number 11 on the season. He's 11-4, 3.50 ERA. Only walked 1, struck out 4. So not a high number, but that's, he's not really a high strikeout guy. But anytime it's got a positive ratio, with, more strikeouts than walks, you like it. Give up the 1 homer, but it's Coors Field, man. Everybody gives up a homer at Coors Field eventually. Might as well get it out of the way. Bullpen did a really good job. Combined for a shutout, only giving up 1 hit. And Joe Jimenez's inning. And they combined our 3 relief pitchers in 3 innings, combined for 7 strikeouts. So they were looking pretty good. That was A.J. Minter pitched in the 7th, Joe Jimenez in the 8th, and then sent out Brad Hand, the guy we just got, one of the 2 guys we just got from the Rockies, to finish him off. So good job for them. 1 walk, 1 hit, 7 Ks between the 3 pitchers. So actually no walks because the 1 walk was that we had in this game was by Bryce. So, and Ozzy, we mentioned before, the only Brave hitter with no hits in this one. He's 0-6, but man, he was close on a couple, especially that first one. That'd be a hit a lot of times, but he just happened to be like right where the dude could reach up and snag it. Not to discount the catch, it was a good catch because when the ball's hit that hard, it's hard to catch. So Ozzy almost came out the gate with a hit immediately. That would have changed the tone, but still, first game back, yeah, you're not gonna be incredible right away. And honestly, you don't really need to be, because everybody else stepping up, everybody eating. Told y'all it was gonna be a banquet at Coors. Not only was Ozuna 2 of 5, Orlando Arcia 3 of 5 with a run and RBI. Michael Harris the second, 2 of 4, 2 runs. Back to his usual 9th place. After getting a few games in there at number 2 in place of Ozzy Albies. It's kind of interesting because a lot of guys wouldn't want to be hitting 9, but Michael Harris II seems to like it when they talk to him about it. Because number 1, you're automatically a lot of times going to be underestimated just being at the 9 hole. Of course, now people know too much to underestimate Michael Harris II. Too much. But still, it's easy. Sometimes you get lost in that shuffle. You're so used to, especially in the National League before last year, that's where the pitcher was hitting. The guy that's hitting like 136 or something at best. Maybe in the 200s if it's like a good hitter like Max or something. But for the most part, not good. And so then after the first time through the lineup, he's pretty much like an extra leadoff guy. Because the leadoff 9 or whatever only really counts once. After that, it's all just about sequence. Not necessarily, you're not going to be the first guy maybe of an inning, but after you get through the lineup that first time, things kind of shift a little bit. So I threw my elbow and knocked some change down. But yeah, so so after the first time through the lineup, you're going to have Harris, followed by Acuna Jr., followed by Ozzy Albies, followed by Austin Riley, followed by Matt Olson. And then next up, like Marcell Ozuna or Sean Murphy, that's a tough lineup for pitchers to face. And then, not to mention Rosario, Arcia, all these guys can hit. It's crazy. The Braves right now have 5 of the top 10 home run hitters in the National League. And, and these guys ain't done yet, y'all. They ain't done yet. Talk about Kevin Pillar, 1 of 4 in this one. Had the RBI on the sac fly, RBI on an infield single, so dose RBIs for him, scoring once himself. Good to see him filling in for Eddie for the game. Nice to have that option, Kevin Pillar, man, because, not expecting much from him, but he'll come up, and you really appreciate that he, no matter how many days between games, is finding ways to contribute. And that can be a tough position to be in, to where you're not going to play every day, and it's kind of limited when you see him. And when he comes out, though, he's like, man, I can still hit the ball. I'll show y'all. And Olson, kind of a quiet 1 of 4 with a run, but he did walk twice. No strikeouts, so that's good to see. And like I said, Braves ended up 18 hits in this one. Cashing them in a lot. The Braves looked really damn good in this game. And that's like a typical kind of Coors score. You're not really that surprised. A little more surprise Tuesday. Braves winning a close one, 3-2-1. Win number 86 on the season. And it's nice to see the Braves getting runs multiple ways like they did in that last game and winning games in multiple ways. Taking a close one. I was like, hey, we don't need to have too many blowouts. We got to get Marcell Ozuna some saves. Let him show that he is our hero, baby. So, yeah, he got save number 26 in this one. But the pitcher that was really the story in this game, and why the Braves were able to get by with only scoring 3 runs. And only, they actually only had 4 less hits than the previous game. So, some really bad runners in scoring. But there were 4 of 12 runners in scoring position in this game. Left 12 Braves on base. Not normally winning numbers at Coors Field, a place where you really got to make them all count. Because the other team, that home team, man, they know how to hit in this part. They ain't won a lot of games, and they can still string together a few. But when you got Uncle Charlie, old reliable Uncle Charlie on the mound, and he's been looking really good lately. Was it like one run the last 20-some innings with him? Got his 14th win. He's 14-10 on the season. That's tied for second most wins in Major League Baseball. His teammate Spencer Strider tied for first most wins. Drink of water real quick. Yeah, but Charlie's been looking so good lately. After a few struggles there a few weeks back, and then he had that game, it's like it started to turn the corner when he walked 7 against the Mets, but didn't allow any runs, which still blows my fucking mind. I mean, just think about how difficult that is. In like 6 innings, you're going to give 7 free passes and nobody comes across the plate? I mean, that's also just the Mets just sucking absolute balls. But I like to think a lot of that's Charlie Morton, because ever since then, he has been like on a tear. He almost had like 3 games in a row with double-digit strikeouts. Spencer Strider stuff for the old guy, but didn't happen. Only ends up with 8, but only had 2 walks, only 2 free passes. Ever since that game, he gave away 7. He's looked a lot better in that regard. Gives up 1 run on 3 hits in 6 innings pitched at Coors fucking Field. I know this Rockies team has had a rocky-ass season. They're not like the best, but they still can hit the ball, especially at home. So to hold them to 3 hits and a run, it's pretty impressive. And, and it helped a lot. Marcell Ozuna taking care of business once again. And just what a year. A lot of people, including me, before the season were like, is Marcell really going to, how often is he really going to be at DH? Honestly, it looked like the catcher was going to DH whoever was off almost as much as Ozuna. And then at the end of April, that first month of the season was terrible for Marcell Ozuna. He was hitting .00 something. Like, I don't know, one time looking at it, it was like 7.4, and then like you got up to like .09, but it was still under 1 a month into the season. And then May, Marcell was marvelous. And he's maybe slacked a little bit in July, but like he has been on a tear this year, like hitting at like a way higher average, and just like all the other Braves, like cutting his strikeouts like almost in half. Just as a team, that's what's been so incredible about this team. They're hitting the ball so much better with so much more power, but they're also not getting that negative thing that you usually get with the power with all the extra strikeouts. I mean, yeah, they're striking out. Everybody strikes out, especially me. That's why I guess I stopped trying romantically. Tired of striking out. That's a whole other episode, is all I have to say. But yeah, Marcell Ozuna, 3rd Brave with 30 homers with his solo shot in the 2nd inning. He also added an RBI single in the 5th. So he got the first and the last RBI of the game, helping the Braves out and getting responsible for 2 of their 3 runs. He's 2 of 4 dose RBIs. The other RBI coming off Sean Murphy. Back-to-back games with an RBI. 1 of 4 in this one. His RBI single in the 2nd inning after Marcell's home run. Braves, winning a close one makes you a little nervous. You'd like to add on. Anytime you leave 12 guys on base, you get a little nervous that it's going to come back to bite you. But the Braves, man, this is a damn good team. It's like somebody always steps up. This time it was Charlie Morton, a little help from Marcell. But without Charlie Morton, Marcell's RBIs might not have mattered if that was all we got. But maybe somebody else would have stepped up, because that's just what this team does. Somebody always steps up. Or not always, but usually. Pretty damn close to always. It's somebody doing something. Ozzy Albies, it was good to see him get his first hits back from the injured list. He was 2 of 5, as well as Ronald Acuna Jr. Actually, hitters 1 through 3 were all 2 of 5 in this one. But no like RBIs, so it's kind of strange. Usually somebody finds a way to get home, but I guess all their hits got kind of mismatched a little bit. Everybody couldn't get the hits at the same time, but still good to see Acuna, Riley, and Albies all 2 of 5, especially Ozzy. All that, with that time off and starting out 0 for 6, you're like, oh, nice to see him get going. How about tonight? I've said, back-to-back home runs. This is where I get crazy with my predictions. I could say, Ronald Acuna's going to hit a home run, but then I got to add on No, it's going to be back-to-back home runs for Ozzy and Ronald. Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't bet against it. I don't have enough money to bet for it. But I'm predicting it. It's going to happen. On this road trip, I'm okay if they save it to LA or if they want to do it more than once. But on this road trip, Ozzy and Ronald are going to go back-to-back. I'm hoping tonight. But, I'm trying to hedge my bets a little bit there. And Michael Harris II, a really good game as well. 3 of 4, stolen base number 20. Got 2 Braves with 20-plus stolen bases. 3 Braves with 30-plus home runs. And you're about to have Ronald Acuna Jr. very soon. He's only 1 homer away from being the 4th guy. Ozzy Albies is only 2 homers away from being either the 4th or the 5th. So it'll be really cool. Really cool to see when the Braves come home at the end of this road trip. Ozzy and Ronald both be in the 30 home run club. Very possible. Whenever Ronald does it, it's going to be history. Because nobody in Major League Baseball history has ever had 30 homers and 60 stolen bases in the same season. Look, Eric Davis was really damn close. Ricky Henderson had his moments, but nobody got those numbers. And Ronald Acuna Jr. is going to do it. And it's something not, even if, not right away, it's going to happen. Ain't no way he doesn't hit 1 more homer. And let's see. The other guys in this game, kind of quiet, but you got the one-hit brothers. Matt Olson, 1 of 5. Eddie Rosario, 1 of 5 with a run scored. And Orlando Arcia, 1 of 3. So kind of quiet, but when you got the pitching humming like they humming, you don't necessarily need a lot of runs. So Uncle Charlie looking good and coming in relief. Pierce Johnson back to Coors, the other Colorado Rocky we got at the trade deadline. 1 inning pitch, 2 strikeouts. A.J. Minter coming on into 8th. 1 strikeout in that inning. And then Marcell Ozuna, we already talked about, coming through. Save number 26. And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I think he would be a league leader if he hadn't started the year on the injured list. Because he's like 10 saves out of the 1 spot. But with the time he missed and then like the delay and getting him kind of ramped up and really like going, could have been one of the league leaders. Still, closer you like to have in your corner. That changeup that he seems to know just when to mix up with his fastball. And it's nice too, because that's a great balance. If you can have a really good pitch changeup to go with a really good fastball, that makes you a dangerous pitcher, especially when you only need to get 3 outs. Because you can mix it up and keep the hitter guessing. And if they're expecting that heat, you throw them a changeup, they're going to swing way too early. I mean, most hitters. Yeah, there's the exceptions, but some guys like that changeup. And changeup can be good if you know where to expect it, but it seems like Iglesias seems to be good at mixing it up, changing locations a little bit. Got to keep the hitters guessing, baby. But great to see what the Braves have been able to do. See if they can finish off this series with a sweep tonight. Darius Vines, that's what I mentioned the other day. I felt like this was the game he was most likely to make his major league debut. And it's happening tonight. He looked pretty good despite dealing with injuries and a couple stumbling blocks down there in Gwinnett. Be interesting to see what he's got. But hey, it's got to be nice though. If you're going to make your MLB debut at Coors Field of all places, nice to have this lineup behind you, which hopefully the Braves can put up some runs early. So give him a little comfort level. It'd be nice to see Acuna and Ozzy do that back-to-back homer thing, or at least get some runs on the board in the first. Because then you can bring him up to pitch in his major league debut already with a lead. And that, I think, would be a nice step in the correct direction. Because takes a little of the pressure off. Yeah, the pressure is going to be there. But knowing you have a little bit of a cushion, I think would help him out a lot. Especially making his first major league start, and of all places, Coors Field, the Mile High. It's a rough place to start out, but you got a nice offense behind you, the best offense in baseball. So hopefully he can get some innings so the bullpen doesn't have to work too hard, because we might need them coming up to this Dodgers series. That's going to be very important when it comes to home field advantage. Because the Dodgers, man, the Braves have been doing pretty good, but The Dodgers keep winning as well. And even the Phillies. I mean, the Phillies have won 5 in a row. They've won 8 of their last 10. The Braves have won 7 of their last 10. Now on a 2-game winning streak. The Dodgers have won 3 in a row. And the Giants, too. After we beat them. And the Dodgers have won 8 of their last 10. They are only 4 games behind the Braves right now. We got a 4-game series. So whatever the Braves do, we cannot get swept. I think the Braves need to get at least a split against the Dodgers. 2-2, because that way they don't, we may not gain it. It'd be nice to see us win the series, but with our history at Dodger Stadium, I doubt that. A sweep would be beautiful, but that's tough. That's a really, really tough thing to do, especially in a 4-game series. And of all places, Dodger fucking Stadium. Very unlikely. It's possible. We're good enough to do it. I just don't see it happen. I think really the best we can hope for is a 2-2 split. I mean, 3-1 series win would be nice, but it's just tough. I mean, the Dodgers are so hot right now. I don't see that happening. But at least if we can get a split, then we won't lose any ground. We'll be the place we are now. What we can't do is get swept. If we get swept, just like that, home field advantage gets a big question mark on it. Because we had a nice little lead there for a while, but the Dodgers, man, went from, second, third place in the West. They've surged right to first, and then both of us pretty much have our division won. We're 12.5 up on the Phillies. They're 13.5 over the Giants, 14 up on Arizona. So those division winners are locked in. The Brewers, they're trying to lock in the Central. They've won 9 of their last 10, but they lost last night in the series opener against the Cubs, who are trying to catch up despite, falling out a little bit. They've won 7 of the last 10. They're 4 games out. So good to see what the Braves have done. Braves still 44 home wins. Hopefully we get to go home with at least 44 away wins. We're at 42 right now. And how about the American League? It's a 3-way tie. I kept talking about the Mariners surging. They tied. Then they took the lead outright. But then last night they lost to, of all teams, the eliminated Oakland Athletics, who are not the only team eliminated. The Royals have joined them in that company. But both New York teams are still last place. The Mets are 2 games behind the Nationals and 27 games behind the Braves, while the Yankees are 19 games behind the Orioles and 4.5 games behind the next closest team to them in their division, the Red Sox. So good for both of them. But mentioning the Mariners, how they were able to surge. I love seeing it. Despite the loss, they've won 8 of the last 10. Astros on a 4-game winning streak. Rangers have lost 7 of the last 10, but they've won the last 2. So they're trying to, they've led the division pretty much all year up until recently. Now, the Astros have been catching up. But the Mariners, man, it was looking like they were going to have to fight for a wild card. And that run they went on. Julio Rodriguez, man, special player. I'm really wanting to see Braves, Mariners World Series. Ronald Acuna Jr. versus Julio Rodriguez. That would be great for baseball. Great for me. Great for the fans. Great for everybody. It'd be a lot of fun. Great for the city of Seattle. They're going to get the Sonics back soon. But the Mariners, that was the first time they led the division since right after high school for me. So good for them. Minnesota, despite losing last night to the Cleveland Guardians, still has a 6-game lead, holding on to first place in the American League Central. Baltimore and Tampa Bay still battling atop the American League East. Both have won 8 of their last 10. Both have a playoff percentage chance of over 99%. The Orioles are 2.5 up on them right now, but still plenty of baseball left. The big story will be what's going to happen with these wild cards. Because Texas, Seattle, and Houston, they're all tied for the division lead right now. So 2 of those guys are going to be wild cards. And then the Tampa Bay Rays. This is what it would be right now because there's 3 wild card teams. So it'd be Tampa, unless they, whoever doesn't win the East, and the 2 teams that don't win the West are the front runners. But then you got Toronto. They're 3.5 games behind whoever, the three West teams. So they're like in the conversation, but just all these teams ahead of them, it's going to be tough. The Blue Jays are really going to have to go on a roll, and I don't see the Astros, the Mariners, the Rangers, or the Rays going on a losing streak. I just don't. Like, not anymore. I mean, the Rangers had their little bit there. The Astros struggled a little bit, but I don't know. I'd love to see the Blue Jays knock one of them teams out. I just don't see it happening. And in the National League, the Phillies are up 5 in the wild card, so they, feeling pretty confident. The way they've been playing, doubtful they fall out the playoffs. So I'm hoping they do, because I remember last year, I remember 1993 when they beat us as a wild card both times. At least they lost the World Series both times, but still, they went to the World Series and we went home. And then you got the Cubs, about 4 games behind them, but 1 game ahead of the final spot. And right now, the final spot in the National League is the Giants. But they're only a half a game ahead of their division foes, the Diamondbacks, who, after really sucking it up there for a while, have won 7 of their last 10. And then you can't forget about the Reds. They're 2 games behind the Giants. And even the Marlins are 3 games out. And then technically the Padres and Nationals are still in at 7.5. The Mets and the Pirates are 9.5 out. Unlikely. And Colorado is not eliminated, but they're 20 out. So probably not happening. I would say the teams that legitimately have a chance would end at Miami. So it's like 2, 4, 6 teams fighting for those 3 wild card spots. Because I'd love to see San Diego go on a run, but I don't see it happening at this point. I just don't. What a disappointment. Somebody's probably getting fired for that team. But have Juan Soto, Manny Machado, and Fernando Tatis Jr., and to be that bad, 62, they're tied with the Nationals, who've been a joke this year. Tied with the Expos, y'all. So I think, in Miami, I don't see them getting that. So I'd like to see Cincinnati replace Philadelphia. But I don't see that happening. But, that's still fun to watch, though. And speaking of fun to watch, before too long, it's going to be football season. Not this Thursday, but the next one. Not tomorrow. So just a week from tomorrow, we'll get our first NFL official game of the season. I think it's Chiefs and Lions. So that should be a lot of fun. Chiefs are going to win that. Panthers will be here in Atlanta, but I will not be able to see it. I'll be working. But I'll be repping my Panthers gear, taking on the Falcons week 1. Of course, some of the stories. Jonathan Taylor not traded from the Colts and not removed from the physically unable to perform list, which means he will not play the first 4 weeks. So that'll be a situation to monitor. And it seems like he's actually injured. Some people are saying that he's using that as a way to get paid. Hold in without holding out kind of thing. But it seems like it could be a legit injury because he did deal with injuries last year that hampered him most of the year. What's some other stuff? The Panthers made a trade for the hot receiver, the second leading receiver in the preseason so far, which may not mean much, but good for they just gave up a conditional pick, have him go in for the, compete for kick returns with Raheem Blackshear. And I'm surprised the Panthers are keeping 3 quarterbacks on their roster. I just don't know. Maybe they're hoping they get a trade, get a late round pick for Matt Corral. Or they're worried they'll lose him for nothing on the practice squad. But I don't know. He's not terrible. He's looked decent in preseason at times. But, is he really worth keeping behind Andy Dalton and Bryce Young? Especially when we probably need to add another cornerback. Because that was the big news from the Panthers roster cuts. Is that they cut a lot of guys that Matt Rule drafted. A lot of guys, including Keith Taylor, another quarterback that he drafted. So they're going to need some depth there at quarterback. Right now there's 4 cornerbacks on the roster. So I feel like that depth, they either need to cut a tight end, because they got 5 right now, which just seems like too much, or the third quarterback. Somewhere in there. Because you don't really want to, I feel like it's nice to have the receivers. Some people say they're a little heavy there. Maybe Derek Wright has kind of been a fun guy, so I don't know if you want to cut him. So I don't know what they're going to do, but, they've got the roster to 53, but they're going to make some moves after that. They're not done. So, some of the moves surprised me. but not any real major ones. What really did surprise me, back to baseball, was the Angels releasing or putting on waivers, trying to get some salary relief, just throwing in the towel in the season. Which in some ways you can't blame them. At the same time, I was like, damn, they gave up one of their top prospects to get those two pitchers from the White Sox, Giancarlo and Ronaldo Lopez, I think it is. And they're putting both of them on waivers. Both of them. So you gave up that prospect for nothing. Nothing. Like they thought they could make a run. And, of course, now the free agency of Shohei Ohtani is kind of thrown into question. Because if you're unsure if he can do pitching and hitting, how does that affect the offer? Some people are saying, the $600, $500 million contract he was likely going to get is much less likely now. Because you don't know, which is sad because he's so much fun to watch what he's been able to do the last couple of years. But like I've said before, like how long is it sustainable? He can still come back and do it. But like having another Tommy John surgery potentially, like, that's tough to come back from twice. And then also to try to do both. It's just a lot on a player. Baseball is hard. I was terrible in Little. I couldn't even play past Little League and I was terrible. And now, these guys are at a whole other level. So trying to, hit and pitch, like at the level that he was doing, and not just hit like the days you're pitching, but hit every day and still pitch every 5 days. Like it's not long-term sustainable. It is just not. Even for a unicorn. But I'm hoping he gets at least a couple more years of it because I think it's good for baseball. It's a lot of fun. And I hope dude gets paid. I hope he goes to the Mariners. That'd be fun. They already got a pretty decent pitching staff with Castillo and a couple other guys that got some heat. And I'll try to talk more about football. It's just been so hard with, number one, so much to talk about with baseball. Like, the Braves have just, constantly been doing shit. So it's kind of hard to work in the other stuff sometimes. And then, speaking of Team USA, kicked Jordan's ass. Not Michael, but the country. Thanks to Jordan does have that one guy. I was really confused because I'm like, Hollis Jefferson, that doesn't sound Jordanian. And I guess he's become naturalized. I think he moved there. He's originally from Philadelphia because they're talking about how he looked like a left-handed Kobe. He's like, oh yeah, he's like, modeled himself after Kobe. That's a hell of a guy to model yourself after. But he's been putting up a lot of points, but we still went, basketball talent. USA is going to beat Jordan. They do let Michael Jordan be on the Jordan team. Sponsored by Nike, Jordan brand. He probably still ball. Even at his age. Give him some chance to work out. Still could ball probably. But it's fun to watch. I wish I could have watched. I woke up in the game, but I checked the score while I was taking my morning dump. Because the game was at 4:30. I woke up at 6 something. And I'm so used to waking up early. But it was they were already up by 40 points. So I was like, no point in trying to find the stream now. And they're good. I think they'll win the tournament. But it's no dream team. But you can't really replicate that. If you were going to have a dream team now, you'd have to have I was trying to put the lineup together in my head the other day. And I know the core guys you would have. But the dream team, you're going to have KD, LeBron, and Steph. Then throw in a shooting guard in the center. Anthony Edwards and, Justin Jefferson. They're probably the players most likely to make my starting lineup, at least from the current team. I'd have Trey on the bench if it's a dream team. I'd love to have Trey in the lineup, but that wouldn't make sense. You got to have him behind Steph. But the shooting guard, that would be the main thing. Who you're going to have as your shooting guard. Definitely some good options there, but I never really went deeper into it. But those three would be obvious. But regardless, this should be fun to watch. I'm hoping some of the games will be at some more regular times. So maybe I could watch a couple of them soon because I've only been able to watch highlights. One thing for sure, Anthony Edwards is a special talent. We already knew that. So I think it'd be great to see Minnesota be the team that goes to Seattle if they don't just get a new team. Because Anthony Edwards is a Seattle supersonic. Oh, yeah, bring back some, even though he's a guard, I think he can bring back some Shawn Kemp vibes in a different way, but still. The excitement he brings to the game would be supersonic. But anyway, I think that's going to be it for me today. I've been talking for almost an hour. Did not expect to talk that long when I started, but hopefully you've enjoyed at least parts of the episode. I didn't mind it. I like talking. I like to hear the sound of my own voice because I know I'm a smart and talented man. And so are you, or woman, or whatever. But hope y'all have a great day. Check back. I will probably do another episode tomorrow. Talk about the finale of this series against the Rockies tonight. Maybe looking forward to that Dodgers and Braves matchup coming up. The matchup of all the MVP candidates, the top 4 candidates will all be playing. No matter what, though, it should be Ronald Acuna Jr. Like, come on. Unless he literally hits 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 for the rest of the season, he's MVP. Come on. But hey, man, I hope you all enjoyed your new favorite podcast, and I hope you come back and listen to more. Subscribe, follow, whatever, Spotify, Babbling Brooks, Instagram, Babbling Brooks 84. Occasionally on YouTube at Babbling Brooks, so check it all out. You're gonna love it, as my friend Noah used to say. I guess he still does. I don't see him enough. Let's hang out, Noah. Peace out.